1 solar mass and 3 solar mass. And I will try to show you how asteroseismology and mixed oscillation modes can help us to understand these giants and stellar evolution in general. So first, actually, low mass red giants are solar-like pulsators. Actually, in these stars, the convective layers at the surface can excite gravitoacoustic waves that can travel back and forth between the center and the core of the stars. They can then constructively interfere and form like standing modes, resonant standing modes with a discrete frequency spectrum, whose properties actually depends on the properties of the interior of the stars. So making the link between these oscillations and the internal structure is actually the goal of asteroseismology. The advent of asteroseismology has been made possible in the last decades thanks to the space-borne missions SOHO for the Sun, and then COROT and Kepler for other distant stars. And today we have a lot of seismic constraints. So in this Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, each blue square represents a star for which we have seismic data. So we can see that we have dozens of subgiant stars and thousands of red giant stars. And all these observations actually bring some surprising results in the last decades. So if we look at the typical oscillation power spectrum of a typical red giant star, here on the right, we can see that we have a forest of peaks as a function of the frequency. So all these peaks actually correspond to an ensemble of different oscillation modes. All these modes are lying around a given frequency, nu max, which is a frequency, a maximum oscillation spectrum, and these modes actually can propagate in different regions in the star. So to understand how these modes can propagate, I plot here a propagation diagram of a typical red giant star, in which actually a mode with a given eigenfrequency is allowed to propagate inside aged regions. So first, if we have a look at the red peaks, actually, we can see in this propagation diagram that these modes can propagate in the outer acoustic cavity like pressure mode, but that they are evanescent in the inner core. So these are the radial acoustic modes, which are similar to the mode that we can see in the Sun or typically in other main sequence stars. So actually these modes, their frequency spectrum is at leading order evenly spaced in frequency by a quantity called delta nu, which is a large frequency separation. Which depends actually on the mean stellar density. If you combine this observation with a measurement of nu max, which depends on the surface gravity and the effective temperature, you can easily have an estimate of the mass and the radius, as you can show here by these simple scaling relations. So this was used already extensively in the past to study, for example, mass loss in red giant stars or estimates the age of such stars. So this point is quite important for galactic archaeology, for example. If you go further into such a spectrum, you can also see a first-order sinusoidal deviation from the leading order, which is actually caused by the helium ionization zone. So this can constrain the position of the helium ionization zone or even the helium surface abundance, but this not has been widely exploited by now. But this is just a small part of what we can learn from the oscillation of red giants. Actually, there is another kind of modes here in blue, in the power spectrum, that are non-radial modes. So these modes actually can propagate in the envelope as pressure waves, but also in the gravity cavity, in the inner core, where they behave as gravity waves. So these two cavities are coupled through a convective coupling, an evanescent coupling relation, sorry. So actually, these modes are very interesting because they have amplitude at the surface, so we can detect them, and they have also amplitude, in the core, so that they contain information about the structure of the core. So mixed mode, the so-called mixed mode, can be detected, have been detected from the subgiant branch to the corium bonding stages, and these observations have shown that at leading order they are well described by the asymptotic expression given here. So actually, the frequency of a mixed mode depends on different or a couple of parameters. So they are equal to the frequency of the closest radial acoustic mode with a large separation, plus an additional phase which depends on different parameters. First, the coupling factor that depends on the properties of the region close to the coupling region. We have the period spacing, which depends on the inverse of the mean density of the gravity cavity here. And we also have the gravity offset, which is related to the bands of the gravity cavity. So we see that with mixed mode, actually, if we detect them, we are able to probe the structure with seismology from the core of the stars to the surface. So they are very promising. Actually, the previous works about that mainly focused on the period spacing, delta pi 1. So here I show you the measurement of the period spacing in thousands of red giant stars observed by Kepler, as measured by Varietal in 2016. So this is represented as a function of the large frequency separation, and the color code gives the stellar mass. So we see that actually that we can see two distinct kind of stars. The first one are the red giant branch stars. So during these stages, the stellar mean density decreases, so delta nu decreases, and the central density of the core increases, so that delta pi decreases. When the helium burning ignites, you have the core density that decreases suddenly, and so the delta pi 1 increases suddenly, which is what we can observe here. So these are the core helium burning stars. So we see that we can easily distinguish between red giant branch stars and core helium burning stars with this diagram, which is quite difficult with classical observables like luminosity or effective temperature. We can also see that we can distinguish between low mass red clamp stars, in which the helium ignition has been done in degenerate conditions, and more massive secondary red clamp stars. So this is not the only thing we can do. For example, Motaban et al. In 2030 showed that the predicted period spacing, predicted by stellar models here in field circles, are about 20% lower than the observations. Actually, they show that this can be solved by increasing the core overshooting in these stars. Actually, if you increase the core overshooting in these stars, you push upwards the lower limit of the G cavity so that it increases the period spacing. Also, other works, like the works of Costantino or Bossini, show that actually you can also use this kind of constraints to test the different mixing prescriptions for the near-core mixing. Like, for example, do you have to use penetrative convection, or do you have to use diffusion convection with an exponential behavior, for example? Or without going too much into the detail, because I don't have so much time, I also note that this kind of observation can also help to constrain the transition mass between the red clamp and the secondary red clamp, and also to constrain the core overshooting during the main sequence. Maybe I could come back on that if I have time. So this is not the only constraint we have today. More recent observations actually could measure in 1,000 of stars the Coupling factor and the gravity offset. So these parameters show also variations with the evolution, which depend on the evolutionary stage. So theory showed that actually these variations are related to the change in the current lab density contrast. And other theoretical work showed that on the red giant branch, the Coupling factor and the gravity offset can, for example, inform us with a characteristic feature here about the position of the base of the convective zone, or the migration of the base of the convective zone during the red giant branch, which is quite important, for example, constraining the first dredge-up of chemical elements. So we still need a lot of work to understand the link between this parameter and the internal properties. And we have to, for example, to answer the question, what is the link between convective cores and the mixing in clamp stars with this parameter? What is the link with core overshooting on the main sequence? And also, what is the complementarity between these parameters and the period spacing? Is the information degenerate, or does the information permit us to go further in this today? So this is an ongoing work, actually. Second, mixed mode can also probe the core rotation, which is one of the big success coming from mixed mode. Actually, when you have rotation in stars, you break the spherical symmetry, as the magnetic field breaks the symmetry for an atomic hydrogen atom. And this will split the oscillation frequency. And from this splitting, rotational splitting, you can have an idea of the mean core rotation rate. So this was done for thousands of stars observed by Kepler. So here, this is the core rotation as measured by Kepler for hundreds of stars as a function of the stellar radius. So during this So the radius here is a proxy of the evolution. So you can see that on the subgiant, the core rotation slightly increases. Then on the red giant branch, it remains more or less constant, and then it drops during the core unbonding. So these observations are quite surprising because during the subgiant and the red giant branch, the core helium core is contracting in a very strong way. So if we had local conservation of angular momentum, we should expect to see an increase of the core rotation rate. This is not what we observe, and this shows that there is another processes, transport processes of angular momentum, that is able to counterbalance the contraction into spin-up. So this observation actually agrees with also the observation of the flat rotation profile in the Sun, or also the low rotation contrast between the core and the envelope in no mass sequence stars, and the low core rotation in white dwarfs. So actually, rotation is quite important for stellar evolution, since it can induce chemical elements mixing, for example, refresh nuclear reagents, and so, for example, have a significant impact on the age dating of stars. But today, unfortunately, the current modeling of the angular momentum transport in stars is quite uncertain. So, for example, if you take models that take into account proper treatment of rotation and transport by meridional circulation or Schindler's turbulence, such as proposed by Jean-Paul Zahn, you can see that they are clearly insufficient. So, for example, here are the predictions of some models for the rotation profiles in subgiants and giants, and the core rotation compared to the observation by astroseismology. So they are sometimes 2 orders of magnitude higher than the observations. So among different solutions, actually, some studies look at internal magnetic fields that are created by telespheric dynamo. So recently, Furrer et al. Showed that with a revised version of this mechanism, that these magnetic fields could explain the rotation profile in red giant stars. But other works show that this revised version actually cannot explain the rotation here in subgiants. Other works look at the transport by internal gravity waves, for example. So these waves are generated by penetrative convection and can influence the rotation profile in stars. And we show that actually these waves can regulate the core rotation in subgiants, but they are inefficient on RGB stars. However, in RGB stars, mixed modes themselves can be efficient to slow down the rotation. And you also have a lot of other works about magnetorotational instabilities, and I refer to the 5-minute talk to Bastien Gouillet to have more information. So just to conclude this small part, I would say that we have some pieces of the answer with all this work, but we are still far to have a global and realistic picture of the rotation history in these stars. So to go further, we could improve the transport prescription by analytical developments or numerical simulations. And maybe the key of all of that is to study all these processes together and their interaction, which has never been done before. So also we would like to, it would be good to account for the constraints also on the abundances of chemical elements as well, since it's not usually done in all these studies. Okay, so just to finish, I would like to add a few words about the energetics of mixed modes. So a mode is not just characterized by a frequency, but in the power spectrum, it is also characterized by a line width and an amplitude. So actually, these properties are related to the properties of the excitation mechanism and the damping mechanism of the modes. So I would say that today, the global properties of amplitudes and damping are qualitatively understood. So we are able, for example, to scale the observed amplitude with, for example, the stellar parameters like the luminosity, mass, and effective temperature. But it's just qualitative, and we are far to have quantitative estimates. So if we want to go further in this direction, we need to use different convection models and go beyond the mixing length theory with, for example, more sophisticated turbulent models or simulation. There are also some stars we are very far to understand what happens. This is the case of deeper stars. So here I show you a power spectrum of a normal stars, which is inverted. So we have the peak towards the bottom. So you see the radial mode here, and you see the non-radial mode, so with correct amplitude. If you take a depressed, so a stars with the same stellar parameters, you can see that sometimes, so you have still the radial modes, sorry, you have still the radial modes with the same amplitude as the normal stars, but the non-radial modes here have quasi disappeared. So these are the so-called depressed stars with the so-called depressed mixed modes. Actually, these depressed mixed modes represent 10% of the observed giant stars with Kepler. So our previous work suggested that it was a result of an extra damping in the core, like internal magnetic fields or wave nonlinearities. But today, this remains an open question. Okay, so now just some few concluding remarks. I show you that asteroseismology of evolved stars and the mixed modes is very useful because they enable us to probe the properties of the stellar central regions, at least for low mass stars. They also show the limits of the current stellar models about the boundaries of convective cores, how to model it, the angular momentum redistribution problem, how to slow down the core rotation along the stellar evolution, and the physical origin also of the damping of mode and the depressed mixed mode. So we still need to be fully, all these constraints still need to be fully exploited to help answer these questions and characterize accurately stars. And I will finish by saying that do not forget subgiant stars, actually. Most of the previous works from an asteroseismic point of view focused on the red giant branch or the clamp. But actually, subgiants have also a strategical place because they are between the main sequence and the red giant evolution. And they're also very short thermal imbalance. This means that during this stage, the response of the internal transport process, for example, can be expected to be very large, and we can measure easily their efficiency, for example. So we had about 40 subgiants observed with the Kepler satellite. And we know that with TESS and Plateau, so the ESA mission Plateau launched in 2026, we will have more than 1,000 of subgiants. So maybe this is the key to understand all this problem. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Charlie. That was great. Again.